Gonna go to a next slide. So just gonna go cover a high-level overview of what Civis Platform is before we get started. So first, what is Civis Platform? Civis Platform is kind of a one-stop shop for all your data warehousing, coding, querying, ETL, modeling, and reporting needs. So really, whatever you need, and whatever your data needs are, Platform can facilitate them. On the data side, Civis is built on AWS Redshift with integrations particularly well-suited for nonprofits and public sector orgs, such as ready-made connectors for CRMs like Salesforce and HubSpot. So getting your data into Civis Platform is really easy. When it comes to digging into your data, your analysts, your data scientists, your engineers have a unified workbench in Civis Platform where they can write code in languages such as DBT, R, Python, and SQL, build models, work with AI, LLMs, and automate workflows that combine all that together. And for people who are not sophisticated with data engineering, we have several AI tools that can help you assist in writing code and analyzing your data. This prevents you from having to jump around between different platforms as your data, your ETL, your modeling, and all your actual insights are all safely secured within Civis Platform. Once your data is unified and your tools are all in place, you can also use Civis Platform to create dashboards and other visualizations. Platform is directly connected to Tableau and other visualizations tools like RShiny and Streamlit, which we'll be covering today. So the people who need to see your data can see it in whatever format works best for them. Civis also enables collaboration across your teams with role-based access controls and sharing features. We're also SOC 2 Type 2 certified and FedRAMP authorized. So really at the end of the day, your team gets to focus on the actual analysis you're interested in and not all the plumbing. Okay, with that high-level overview out of the way, we can jump to another high-level overview of the presentation. So we're going to first start off with the types of reports that you can host on Civis Platform. Then I'll cover setting up Civis's MCP server. You're going to hear that term a lot. The MPC server is kind of like the connective tissue between an AI tool and Civis's API and database. So it lets you connect directly with Civis Platform through third-party AI tools. Also, then going to cover building reports with AI. So going to show you how to host an HTML report with AI and how you can spin up an RShiny app or the code to spin that up pretty quickly with AI. And then we're also going to cover publishing service deployments. You're going to hear service deployments a lot. That deals with RShiny Streamlit apps. And then we're also going to have some SQL reports, and all of that will be shown using the Civis UI. Then we're also going to have, we're going to cover Tableau reports, hosting them on Civis, and how you generate public links for that. And then we're going to cap it all off with a Q&A section at the end of the presentation. So let's jump into what reports you can host on Civis Platform. So on Civis Platform, you can directly host Tableau, SQL, HTML, and service deployments such as RShiny, Streamlit, and Flask. If you don't want to use Civis Platform to host these reports, you can also use Platform as your ETL pipeline and your warehouse, and then you can export your data to BI tools like Looker Studio and Power BI and things like that. But for Tableau dashboards, you utilize Tableau Desktop along with our Tableau server and our VPN to push your reports to our Tableau server and then to Civis Platform, where you can share them with platform users and create public links. Then we also have SQL reports. We have a query pane, a query tool on Civis Platform, which a lot of our clients kind of like live in, and you can jump from that to a report really easily, and I'll be demoing that. We also have HTML reports. You can write them yourself and have an AI tool help you write them really quick. You post them on Civis Platform, and you can share them with platform users. And then, of course, we have the service deployments, RShiny, Streamlit, Flask. Your code for them lives in GitHub. You pull them in with our service templates, connect them to a Docker image, and make sure they're scaled to your heart's content so that they're up and running when you need them. Okie dokie. So ways to build and share reports. You can use our UI. So for our UI, like I mentioned, you can build those SQL reports. You can build those custom HTML reports if you know how to code in HTML. And then we also have our service templates that let you quickly and easily launch these service apps. You can utilize Claude Desktop, Claude Code, or Copilot on VS Code to build and launch these apps We also offer Civis Studio, which is VS Code hosted on Civis Platform. And that has our MCP server pre-installed, so you can just go ahead right away and start talking to the agent, and it can write scripts for you and launch reports and pull up things like, why did this job fail, or why did this workflow fail, or something about your credentials. And then, of course, we also have Tableau desktops. Tableau Desktop connects directly to your Redshift hosted on Civis Platform. You then connect to our Tableau server, and you get that published and share it with platform users or public links. So, gonna jump into talking about the Civis MPC server. I already went over this a little bit, but MCP server is a Docker-based server that lets any AI tool talk directly with Civis Platform to query data, run jobs, troubleshoot workflows, and build reports. Like I said, is that connective tissue in between our API and an AI tool. You can ask questions like, why did my workflow fail? How many records are in this voter file? Build me an HTML report, or help me set up and deploy our Shiny app. So it lets you leverage the written language to quickly and easily spin up reports. Again, the MCP server works with Claude Desktop, Claude Code, Copilot on VS Code, and of course, Civis Studio, which is VS Code again on Civis Platform. To get started with setting up the MCP server, all you need to have is Docker installed. So that's an application Docker. You need to have that installed. We have all this documented in our Zendesk documentation. And then you also need to have Claude Desktop installed, or VS Code and Copilot up and running. And then you need to get your Civis API key. To get your Civis API key, you're logged into the platform. You click the initial icon in the top right corner that has a drop-down menu, and you go to My Profile, and from there you go to Get API Keys, and then you can have that last for a day, a week, a month. If you need something longer, we can grab it for you. Just make sure not to share that API key or let anybody see it. Just generate it, put it where it needs to go, and don't have it living anywhere else. Okay, with that, we're going to jump to a live demo of setting up that MCP server, and then we're going to be building a HTML report with that MCP server. So, going to jump over to Claude Desktop. You might not be familiar with this, but you can download Claude off the internet. Claude is, of course, one of the biggest AI tools out there. It can help you write emails, spell check, write code, in this case, create reports. So we want to set it up with our MCP server, that connective tissue, so we can start talking to our Redshift database and our platform API. So what I did here is I grabbed our Civis MPC server documentation. Everything that exists on Civis Platform has a corresponding Zendesk page that covers every little bit of detail of those templates or those jobs or those scripts, covering every single parameter. But if you think anything's missing or you have any questions, you can always email us at support@civisanalytics.com. But so I grabbed that PDF. You can export it, I think, with a print preview, or you could just copy and paste the doc into Claude, and so it has all the information it needs. And then I just asked it, hey, I need to set up the Civis MPC server with you. I've attached the documentation that covers this, and let's get started. And then in parentheses, I said, hey, we've already had this conversation. This is for a demo, so please don't bring up the fact that we've already walked through this before. So it's like, great, let's get started. Just make sure you have the prerequisites. Make sure you install Docker. So this is the link that's from the doc I shared with it. So it has this information to share with you. Go to this link. Make sure you download the right version for your PC or Mac. Of course, we already have Docker installed. Claude installed. So we're ready to go with that. And we grabbed our API key like I mentioned earlier. And then it's going to say, okay, all you have to do is go to settings, go to developer, edit config. You have to copy and paste in a JSON file. You're going to have to save that config. You're going to have to close Claude and restart it, and you're good. So it's really, really simple. I just confirmed with it that I have everything ready to go. It said, let's get started. It gave me the JSON file to drop into that config file. So, but when I saw it, I was like, hey, there's already a JSON in here, and I don't want to have to manually work with this JSON to plug it in myself. So I just told it, hey, there's a JSON in there. Can you go ahead and combine the JSON that's already there with the one that you told me to implement? And it said, sure, great. So it combined me this full JSON. you just got to drop your API key. And to get to this JSON, you just go up here to Claude, you go down to settings, you go down to developer. This indicates that the MCP server is running. So when you first start, this doesn't exist. This is the proof that it is running. So originally it's not there. You click edit config, and it's going to pop up this folder for you, and you're going to open up this JSON file. I'm not going to open up because my API key is in there. But this is what you'd open up, and you paste in that JSON it shared with you. You save it, you close it, you go back to Claude. Claude is then going to want you to close out of Claude and reopen it. Before I did that, I just asked it a few more questions. I was like, so what is Docker doing while this is going on? Does it just need to chill and be open? And that's exactly right. So you're going to download, I don't know if I said Claude, you're going to download Docker, right? And just up in the background. So this is what Docker looks like. This isn't active when you first open it up. It's just going to have everything else here. You don't have to log into anything. You don't have to set anything up. It just has to be open for this. So once you save and edit that config file, you're going to close Claude, which I have up right now, fully close it, make sure the application is closed all the way, and then you're going to reopen it. And then I just confirmed with it, hey, this is what Docker looks like right now. Are we good to go? And it's like, yep, that's exactly what we're expecting to see. And then it said, go to settings and go to developer and make sure we can see this. So I screenshotted that because you can just share screenshots with Claude to make sure everything looks right. So I shared it with it, and it was like, yep, perfect, we're good to go. You can start asking me why my recent workflow failed or how many rows are next table. So I asked it something different. I said, what access does my user have to the public schema in Redshift General? It pulled up my username, so grab my username, and it said, you have usage and create privileges on the public schema, so I have full access. So it really can pull up all your credentials, all of your information about your user on Civis Platform. So it's really handy. It's probably easier to pull a lot of this information up with Claude than it is to do it through our own menus on platform. So I just highly recommend having Claude Desktop set up, or Claude Code, or Copilot with VS Code, or get friendly with our Civis Studio with Copilot there, just so you can grab these things at whenever you want to look them up. Okay, so now that we have the MCP server set up, we can create an HTML report. So that's also even easier. So I just want to cover real quick that setting up this MCP server, it took me 2 minutes. It is super quick. It is super easy. You plug in the doc, it knows everything. You just have to click through it. You can ask it the questions if you don't know what you're doing. It can get you done in literally 2 seconds. What takes the most amount of time is downloading Docker and downloading Claude. But other than that, it's a 2-minute procedure. So let's jump into HTML report. So for that, again, I dropped in a PDF of our Zendesk documentation on reports on Civis Platform, so that it knows exactly the ins and outs of what's expected. And then I said, hey, I want to build an HTML report with you using the public.iris table in Redshift General Database. I want to see the report here in Claude, but the end result is to host the report on Civis Platform. I've attached the documentation, and again, I told it we've already had this conversation. This is for a demo, so ignore the fact that we've already had this conversation. And it says, great, I got the full picture. It asked me a follow-up question of what I want to see in the report: a scatter plot, a summary stats table, a description chart, and a surprise me option. I asked for all 4 because why not? It's doing the work, not me. It took a few minutes for it to churn out the report. It had to ask me for some permissions to access the data. And then literally in a minute or 2, it already had the report visible for me that I can view it on Claude Desktop, and it already has it live on Civis Platform. So when I initially pulled this up and ran it, that had data in this report. It was all finished and shiny. At some point since then, the connection has dropped, but we're going to view the report on Civis Platform in a second, so you're going to get the full picture. But just wanted to show you that you can view the report both locally and have it launched on Civis Platform. So it's already live on Civis Platform. It's great. I looked around. I was like, this is cool and all, but I would like it to be more Civis Analytics branded. So with Claude, you can train it on your organization's logo and colors and themes and slide decks so that it knows how to replicate that for reports or for slide decks or for whatever you want Claude to put together for you. So I asked it to utilize our Civis brand palette, and it created another report very quickly. more Civis branded. It's got Civis up here at the top. It's usually more gold letters. Again, the numbers aren't here, but it gives you links. So if I open these up, it's going to take me right to platform. I already have those conveniently up for us, so we can take a look. So this is the original one, the non-Civis branded one with the flower. So it's got at a glance stats at the top. It's got some scatter plots. It's got some box and whisker plots. It's got, this is the surprise me option. So each line represents a row of the data, so you can track it from one step to another. It's got some summary statistics at the bottom. I already see a few flaws in this, right? So this legend isn't colored. This legend's all messed up. It looks like the x-axis values here are a bit clumped together. You can just ask Claude to fix that, and it can fix the HTML and push it. Again, looks like some overlap here. Maybe I don't like this grid background. I could just ask Claude to make it a white background with just gray lines to clean it up a little bit. But as I mentioned, I asked it to do a more Civis branded version. So we got the Civis colors with the dots. We got the Civis name at the top. Looks like the legend here is correctly colored, and I still don't like this x-axis too much. I could have it clean up a little bit, give more white space so those legends are clearly shown, and then we have those summary statistics at the bottom. I really like this second version of these summary statistics a lot better. I think this looks a little bit more professional. So, but anyways, whatever you want to add up 12 different plots. All you got to do is ask Claude, and in a matter of seconds, it's going to spin it up for you. So this is super convenient for HTML reports. I think Claude is sort of best at these HTML reports relative to the other reports, just because it is an expert at HTML. So when you first see the report, you see this little full screen icon at the top here. You just want to click that to see the settings at the top. If you click this button down, you can see an option to connect to a repository, a branch, and a path. So Claude created this code. So currently we're not pulling from a repo, but maybe we want to back this HTML code into a repo. So you'd want to set up that repository. And then once this is set up, when you go to manage versions, you'd be able to push this to that repo so that the code lives in a safely secured version controlled GitHub repo. And then if you want to see the underlying HTML code, you click right here to edit HTML, and this is what Claude essentially created. I did not learn HTML in graduate school. I think I might have used a little bit of it in the MySpace days, but it's been a while. And so Claude is really easy, really great at spinning this stuff up when you don't have to learn the language yourself. And so if you want to share this out, the settings menu here is really similar across all of our jobs. So it's all one and the same. You can set this as an org favorite. So when you go to the home page, it shows up under organization favorites, where you can make it a favorite so it shows up under your personal favorites. But what you would really care about here is this 3-dot icon. And you can add it to a project. So these are our platform bookmarks. Ryan Jameson is going to go over a lot of this stuff in more detail in his Civis 101 train webinar next week. But these platform projects are bookmarks, like a Chrome bookmark. So instead of having a bunch of web browser bookmarks to save all your platform jobs, you can do that within platform itself. And then you can share projects with users on platform to make sharing out projects and jobs more easily. But with this share icon right here, you can share this report with specific users and platform groups. So a lot of organizations have report viewers that log in just to see reports on platforms. So we want to make sure, and those users would all belong to the same reporting group. So we can go here, type in report, and click one of those reporting groups, add it to it. I can add in Owen's name, and I can submit it real quick. I'm gonna refresh my browser. I think I'm under my user. There we go. There we go. And so if I go here, I can type in Owen, and I can add Owen to this. He's a normal user, so I can make him a manager, and I can add him. And then I save this at the bottom, and now Owen can view my report whenever he logs in. I'm not going to save that. And in general, if you go to the menu up top right here, you see publish. This is where you see the SQL reports, you see the HTML reports, you see the general service deployment template that's just blank, that you can set up any way you like, or you can see the prefabricated templates for Streamlit, Shiny, and Flask. Just want to quickly show a custom HTML report, what looks like blank, before I go back to the presentation. So when you open it up, it has got that edit HTML box that you can just start writing away, or you can go ahead and, if you have it already on GitHub, you can go to version control here, connect your repository, connect your repo, and then you can just pull in that code from GitHub if you already have an HTML report somewhere. Okay. With that, gonna jump back into the webinar, into the slide deck, that is. So going to go over publishing and sharing on Civis Platform. I just went over that a little bit, but here's a slide on it. So like I demoed, you go to the nav menu at the top of Platform, you click on the Publish button, and you can view all reports from there. I'll show that in a second. Or you can go to service deployments or those HTML reports or SQL reports. Then, of course, you create the report. For the service deployments, you're going to have to fill in a repo and a Docker image in resource settings. Then you can start deployments, and you can set up when the report is active and when it's on demand. And then you're going to share out the report like I just walked through. And you can also create public links. So for Tableau and Shiny, Flask, and Streamlit, those services, you can create public links. But for the HTML reports and the SQL reports, you need to be a Civis Platform user. Okay, so now we're going to cover the service deployments. So those Shiny, Streamlit, Flask apps, and we're going to do a little Shiny demo at the end of it. So this slide covers deploying interactive apps known as service deployments, such as Shiny, Streamlit, and Flask on Civis Platform. You can have these apps hosted on other platforms outside of Civis while using Civis as your data warehouse and ETL pipeline. But in this instance, we're talking about hosting these apps directly on Civis Platform, where you can share your reports with report viewers or standard users that utilize passwords and 2FA to log in, or your org's SSO if that's how you want to set things up. That way your apps are safely protected within Civis Platform's secure data environment. There's also public links available, like I mentioned, that allow you to avoid logging in, but you got to make sure you share those appropriately. So these apps are hosted on Civis Platform, where they have access to your Redshift database. They run custom code. They respond to users in real time, where Platform handles all the compute and scaling infrastructure for you after you set it up. So how it works is your code lives in GitHub, where it's version controlled. And our service deployment templates, you fill in the GitHub repo, the branch, the file path, and point the template towards your app on GitHub. You also need to point it towards a Docker image. You've heard Docker a few times. I showed you Docker. I'm gonna have a slide on Docker later on, so you're gonna have a little bit more info on what actually Docker is used for. You can make your own Docker images, or you can use the ones we already have available for you and preset and pre-prepared for Shiny, Streamlit, and Flask. In the settings, you can also set the memory, the CPU, the replica count. You can also set up scheduling to make it on demand, live at certain times, or always on, so you can scale up your apps based on your needs. Okay, sharing services and public links. So to generate a public link for one of these service deployments, you can do so in the settings. I'll be demoing this in a second. The app needs to be live. You give the token a name, and you click generate a public link, and it's going to automatically share that link to your clipboard. So you can Control V and paste it wherever you need it. And you set a 1 day, a week, or a 30-day time frame for this public link, and you can kill it anytime if you want to stop the link from being usable. There's also deep links. So in the actual report for our platform users, if you click around in maybe a multiple tab Shiny report, that link is going to update and reflect where you are in the report. So then you can share that link with individuals instead of like having to share the base link and then write up instructions on how to direct them to what you are referencing. Things to know: services must be running, of course, to create these public links. They expire 1 day by default, but you can scale it up to 30 days. And no platform login need for those public links. Just keep in mind on who you share them with. Now we're gonna get to Docker. A Docker image is a package snapshot of an environment. It bundles specific coding languages, libraries, and dependencies into a portable, reproducible container where your services run. When your services run, Civis Platform pulls that images and uses it as its execution environment. Every service deployment requires a Docker image. It defines exactly what software is available at runtime. So your R Shiny app has the R version of packages, regardless of whether it runs. So you can use an image from Docker Hub, ECR, or GitHub Container Registry, or use a Civis provide image out of the box. We already have, like I said, those prefabricated images you can use for Shiny, Streamlit, and Flask. So you can just start from there and edit on. So how do you build the Docker images? We recommend, like I said, to start with those prefabricated images. This allows you to inherit the working environment. You only have to add in what you need at the top. From there, you can add custom packages or system dependencies, anything your app imports at runtime that it needs for the image. Then you need to build and push to a repository. So you're building this in that Docker app I just showed. There, you're going to run Docker build and Docker push from your local machine. The image needs to be publicly accessible to platform, or it might need a credential to help pull it. You can put that credential directly into the service. I'll demo that in a second. And you've got to make sure you reference the image in the service deployment config. Make sure you have the full image name plus the tag, which is the version of it, in the field so that we can fully connect to that Docker image. Okay, next I'm going to jump to demoing an R Shiny image, R Shiny service via the UI. I'm going to build a SQL report, and then I'm going to show you how you can launch an R Shiny app via code, with the help of Claude. So let's jump into the R Shiny demo. Gotta exit this and jump to reports. So this is that blank report, HTML report I showed you earlier. To go to the R Shiny, you just go up here to publish. This is where you find all the reports again. If you want, you can start with this service deployment and fill out things on your own. But we already have these R Shiny, Streamlit, and Flask templates all set to go. So I'm going to click on the Shiny one. It's already pointed to one of our public repos. We already have a Shiny app that you can launch and test and take a look at and see how that code infrastructure looks. Got the branch set up, got the path set up. The app is what the application is in the repo. If that app was in a folder, you would do something like folder 1, folder 2, if you wanted to grab the app from within multiple folders in your GitHub repo. But in this case, the app is at the top of the repo. This is the R Shiny Docker image I mentioned that we have prefabricated, or where you'd put your own. This is the version tag. We got the partition label and the EC2 instance type right here. Not going to cover that today, but if you want to make sure you got everything locked in place for where your resources are coming from, that's where you would manage that. This is where you would set the replicas. So one replica is probably enough for most use cases, but perhaps lots of people are going to be using your app. So you're going to want to have maybe 2 or 3 replicas up. That's basically just going to multiply your resources by the number of replicas you have. So if you got 2 replicas, you're going to be using 1600 CPU in that case, and 6000 memory. This is what the default memory is in CPU usage that's going to be used to run the app. I'd recommend just starting with that, and then if the app crashes when you're testing it out, bump the CPU in memory until the app doesn't crash. It acts as you would like it to. Here you can add in environmental variables, so perhaps your app is set up to leverage multiple data sets, like it's data set agnostic. So you just have to plug in a different table and it's going to pull in that table and run the app. You can have table name right here as a parameter, and you can have schema dot table as the value, whatever table you want to pull in. We're not going to use that today. And then credentials here, maybe you add in a database credential, or maybe you need to add in a credential to be able to pull in the Docker image that you've customly made that's hosted somewhere else. So that's what that's used for. And then you have the service tokens right here. You got to have the app live to create that. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this report. It's going to load up real quick. It's going to open up a second page So just go over these two different pages while it's loading up real quick. So this original one where I deployed, this is what controls the app being live or not. So you're only going to want to share this with users that need to kick off the service. So you're not going to need to show this with report viewers. You're not going to need to share this with all the standard users, just users that are going to be responsible for kicking off the app. Where this second page it opened up is the actual app hosted in platform. And this is the one you'd want to share with your users logging into Civis Platform. So it's an app on that same data set that I showed you earlier. Nothing too fancy or exciting here relative to what we already saw, but this is what you'd want to share with the platform users. Let's go back to creating, got to refresh this. Sometimes it has a 504.3 error when you start up. You just got to refresh the page. Going down to settings again, we're going to create that public link. So once you type that in there, you can make it expire in a day or 30 days or a week. And we're going to click this generate public URL. It's going to automatically get copied to our clipboard. So I'm going to go over to that original tab and I'm going to look at what the public link looks like. So there's no Civis branding in the public link, both in the URL and at the top of the page. So you can make this, your own org branded report. And so it's going to make it look like you're not necessarily in Civis Platform, you're in your org's reporting infrastructure, if you so see it. So this is what it looks like. No icons here to share anything. It's just a public link. Just be careful who you share that public link with. One more thing to go over back in where we start up the app is in the settings. We want to care about scheduling, right? So by default, the app is set to be on demand. So when you go to that public link or you go to the app in that other link I showed you, it's going to take a minute for the app to load. Once it loads up, it's going to stay live for an hour. And then after that, if no one looks at it, it's going to turn off. The downside here is that startup time. Sometimes apps are quite large and might take a little bit to load up, and your clients might be impatient and they don't want to wait. So you can have it scheduled at a specific time. Here you can add the recurrences, so I can have it on Sunday. I can have it live 6, 7, 8 a.m. for example. It's going to be live for each of those hour periods, so it won't go offline here. And then you can add one for Monday. You can add one for every day of the week, or you can have one that covers every day of the week. You can have it live to your heart's extent. So maybe you have it live during normal working hours, and then on the weekend it's on demand, and like late at night it's on demand. So let me back out of that, and if you want it always on, you can do that as well, and that way the app is always live. Just be cautious of your resource costs. It does use compute, and so you're going to want to keep that in mind. Of you might not want to have a dozen of these apps always on. You're going to burn through your compute hours pretty quick with that. Going to go ahead and discard that. So that is everything regarding the service templates I want to demo. Going ahead and revoke this link. I'm going to go ahead and stop deployment. One thing you can do is if the underlying code ever changes or the data you're pulling in changes, you can just click this update deployment and it won't shut off the app. It'll just refresh it based upon the underlying code changes and data changes. Going to go ahead and stop. Next, going to go over SQL reports. So this is our query pane. You can access it via this button at the top menu, and you can write out any query statement you want, some select star from schema table that you want, or you can leverage our SQL AI. So here I just have a English language written out. Write me a query on the public.iris table that shows average metrics by plant, and I can click generate SQL, and in a matter of seconds it's going to pop up a prompt. It's going to ask me if I want to accept or deny. I already have that ready to go, just so we don't have to wait for anything. And so what pops up is you still have that question or that statement I've written at the top. It's going to give you some assumptions made or some description of the query, and it's going to show you the query. You either accept or discard this query, and once you accept or discard the query, it's going to look like this, and your statement is going to disappear. You can keep this if you want or remove it, and then you click run, and that's when you're going to get this output at the bottom. I'm going to go and run this query to start with in case I change anything with the graph. So it looks like it generated a query that we wanted. It groups by the species of plant, and it shows us the average of the different petal and sepal. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Dimensions. So we have this nice little query for each of our species, and we just have to click this graph button, and we can start working on our SQL report. So by default, it's gonna, I believe, just click the first the first column here, and then it's gonna pick the second one here. So when you first start this up, depending on your query, it might look like a plot that doesn't make any sense because it picked two random XY values that don't really graph well. Maybe one's a count, one's a timestamp, so it looks wacky. So you just have to make sure you select the right X-axis you care about, and then you can select all of the other columns you want to show as Y-axis variables. And you can either look at this as a bar chart, a line chart, or a scatter plot. To me, the bar chart makes a lot of sense here. Maybe if you're tracking like membership signups over time or something like that, a line chart would make more sense. Here, a bar chart makes the most. So you can look at group or stacked. Again, I think group makes the most sense here. And from here, you can go to open it as a SQL report. You can also open it as a script. So this will jump your query into a SQL script that you can save, or in this case, we want to jump into a SQL report. So you're going to see the same query that you had before. You can also navigate to this by publish in SQL. This will just be blank, and there won't be a query, and then you just start your query from there. But a lot of people just start in the query pane because that's where a lot of people tend to be most of the time on Civis Platform. So you take that query, the graph exported perfectly from what we showed in the query pane over here. So then but you notice there's no title, there's no X or Y labels or anything like that. So we're going to add them in the next step. But if this is sufficient for you at this time, you can click this little download as PNG file right here, and you can post it in a slide deck or something if you're just looking for an image of a plot. But let's go click next here, and here you can give it a report name, so webinar reports. You can give a description. I'm just going to call it webinar report again. So this is going to change the name at the top after we refresh it. We can also give it a title here, webinar reports, and we can, I think this unit over here is centimeters. I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and call it centimeters, and down here we can call it plant type. And then from there, we can save this report, and we can refresh it. And the underlying data changes, it will refresh the report here. And then we can share it out to platform users like I mentioned before. And before I jump back to the slide, just want to cover how you would use Claude to publish one of those R-Shiny reports. So Claude at the moment can't launch one of those templates, but it can generate the code for you. It can't run the code, but if you're in Claude Code or in VS Code using Copilot, it can execute that code for you after it creates it for you. In this example, Claude can just create it. So I asked it to create me a service template, and I gave it the repository, the branch, the path, the Docker, the tag, the CPU and memory, and it gave me the code to create that. All you have to do is copy that code, go over to Civis Platform, open up, go to code, and go to Python. You drop that code in and you run it, and that's going to post and host your R-Shiny report without you having to utilize the templates. It's going to create you a template, and you just go to that, and you can launch the app. Okay, so back to the slides. Just going to cover Tableau real quick, and then we'll be good to jump to the Q&A. All right, so Tableau reports on Civis Platform. Let's get started. So how it works, you need to have Tableau Desktop and a license. We don't supply the license for Tableau. You're going to have to grab that yourself. And from Tableau Desktop, you can connect directly to your Redshift database hosted on Civis Platform via your database password and username. And then next, you're going to need to connect to our VPN. You just send us out an email, and we'll enable the VPN for your user, and we'll send you the Zendesk documentation explain how to set up the VPN. And then you're going to need to connect with the VPN. You can connect to our Tableau server. We do provide access to our Tableau server for free for our clients, so all of your standard users can get a Tableau server account. So via the VPN and Tableau Desktop, you push your report to Tableau server, you log into Tableau server, and from there, you can publish your report on Civis Platform or edit who has access or who can edit. We support up to version 2025.1.8 for Tableau, and we recommend using extracts instead of live connections. That way your data is saved in an instance. If it's a live extract or a live connection, then if the data changes, maybe your Tableau report might break because maybe some column goes off the page or something like that, or there becomes a null value or something like that. So we recommend using an extract. And then, of course, you can use user filters, so you can make sure only certain users see certain versions of that report, so you can control it in that way. And in general, if you ever have any questions with any of these reports, run into any blockers, always feel free to reach out to us at support@Civis Analytics, and we can help you with that. And lastly, going to cover public links for Tableau. These are going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to reach out to us on support for us to create these public links for you. We can set them to expire in any time frame, a day, 30 days, a year. Just keep in mind that these are public links, and if anybody has access to the link, they can view your report. So the best practices are always to make sure they expire in a particular time frame, that you can make sure the link is safe in the hands of people who need access to it and not in the hands of people who don't want to see your reports. So make sure to only share those reports with people you want to see it, that you want to have see the report. And always make sure to review public links actively and revoke them at certain times and create new ones. And all you have to do is send us an email and we'll set that up for you. Okay, that is the presentation. We're now on to the Q&A. Again, if you want to be a part of the Q&A, all you have to do is go to the 9-dot button icon in the bottom right of the presentation and go to Q&A, and we can see your questions there. So we got a question here already. Can a SQL report pull from multiple databases or just one query? It's just going to be one query. Of course, you can have like multiple joins in that query, so you can pull in multiple data sources, not across databases, but we have database imports and exports. So if you do have multiple databases hosted on Civis Platform, you can pull all that into one database, and you, with left joins, inner joins, right joins, whatever you want, you can combine those queries together to make your SQL report. Got another question. Are the HTML static, or do they refresh when the data changes? They are static, from my understanding, and you'll just have to I think you might have to just, I'm not sure at the top of my head. Oh, and how do the HTML reports refresh? You just have to refresh the code?
Yeah, so you can link a single Civis SQL script to an HTML report. So you run into very similar issues with as you do with the SQL report, where if you need like multiple different queries, it's going to become a little bit more complicated. So the approach that most people take there, they actually use a Python script to execute multiple different queries and then plug that data into an HTML template and republish their HTML report.
Okay, thanks, Owen. Got another question. Just want to confirm that I can reach out to you to help me connect my Tableau account to Civis in the VPN, etc. Yes. Whenever you run into any blockers or just have any questions at all, you shoot us an email at Civis, support@civisanalytics.com, and we can send you the Zendesk documentation for it or help you with any particular questions. You're going to have to reach out to us to get access to the VPN. That's a box we have to check for individual users, and then we'll toss you the Zendesk documentation for that. We're also going to have to create the Tableau server account for you. So just let us know when you need one of those, and we can set it up for any standard user. Okay, what happens to a service deployment if the underlying data change? Does it update automatically? Oh, and just covered that for SQL reports. It's all going to be different from report to report. So like Tableau, like I mentioned, you're going to have those data extracts. So you're just going to want to refresh that data extract whenever the underlying data refreshes. Or for service deployments, there's that button at the top that says refresh the instance, so that once the data is done, you can just click that button and it will refresh the app. Is there a way to configure a linked server to pull data from multiple databases, to pull data two or more sources? Thanks. Yes. We have multiple imports and exports. So even if your data is somewhere else on like a third-party database, we have lots of imports already available to CRMs like Salesforce and things like that. And so we can pull in your data directly into your Redshift or Postgres or BigQuery database hosted on Civis Platform, and then you can join that all together. Or if we don't have it posted or created, we have options for you to create your own connections, or through SOWs and stuff like that. We can create some more complicated connections for you. So yeah, with Civis, you can really just pull in all your data sets from every single one of your sources, have them neatly set up in a variety of schemas and tables, and left join it all to your heart's content. We also have AI matching tools. So if you have joins that like don't match up perfectly, you can leverage AI to help you match those joins when things aren't perfectly matching strings together.
Yeah, I'll just also add that with the service report specifically, you can also pull in data from external sources. So you'd be able to, there may be some networking or allow listing steps that are required, and you might have to also embed some credentials into your service. But there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to pull from multiple different databases at the same time in the service report.
Exactly. That's when you would leverage those credential settings I showed when pushing the Shiny app. Do you need a Tableau license to view a report in Platform, or just to build one? You just need the license to build it locally and then push it to our Tableau server, and then any user can view it via a public link. Or if they are a Civis Platform user, you just have to share it with their user or a platform group that wraps around like multiple users. How are we at time? Got good time, 10 minutes left. Just seeing if there's any other questions left. Can we use the MCP server if we don't have Claude Desktop? Yes, you can use the MCP server via Claude Code, or you can utilize VS Code, Visual Studio's Code. That's an application you can download off the internet, and through GitHub's Copilot, it connects to VS Code, and that can leverage our MCP server. We also have Civis Studio, which is MCP server. Not MCP server, it's VS Code hosted on Civis Platform. You just have to spin that up, and it's already connected to our MCP server free of cost. You do have to keep in mind with Copilot, there's a freemium model that will potentially train on your inputs, but when you pay for the premium versions of that, they don't train on your data. So keep that in mind. And with our MCP server, you can really connect to any AI tool that allows the MCP server to interact. So it's a standardized tool or language that can connect to any AI tool, and it can work directly with Civis's API. Again, if you have any questions, you can click the little 9 circle icon in the bottom right and go to Q&A and drop your questions there. Again, if you didn't see all of this video, or if you want to share this webinar out with other people, it will be on our YouTube channel in the coming days.
One more here that's marked unanswered. I'm not sure if we got this one, but Somebody asked, just want to confirm that I reach out to you to help me to connect my Tableau account to Civis, VPN, etc. Yeah, that's exactly right. You just send an email to support@Civis Analytics, and we can get you sorted out there.
I think that roughly covers everything. I really appreciate everybody coming out today. Again, if you have any questions, you can still ask them now. But we're going to be hosting these webinars every month. I believe next month we'll be covering workflows on Civis Analytics, or Civis Platform, and that allows you to string together multiple jobs, often utilizing multiple languages to pull in your data, run DBT, run additional ETL steps, maybe run some modeling, and maybe then a step to left, join those modeling scores back to your data, and then maybe you have an export out to HubSpot or Salesforce, or maybe to a report at the end of that workflow. And then next week, I believe next Thursday, Ryan Jameson, another Ryan J, will be going over Civis 101. So if you want to know more about the ins and outs that maybe I skimmed over in this webinar, he'll be going over that in more detail. Whenever you send us a support ticket into Civis, you'll be either talking to me, Ryan Jameson, or Owen. So if you ever address, hey, Ryan, hey, Owen, you're going to get it right 100% of the time. So thanks, everybody, for coming out. It's great talking to everybody. I hope to see y'all at our next webinars. And we'll see you in the ticket queue if you send any emails our way.